Hi everyone, thanks for tuning in today. We are going to focus on the OPT news today. And then the news story that and the success story that we're going to be talking about will be N470, which is preserving your status while you're abroad so you can still become a citizen. It's very rare that we do these, every few years, but every time we do it, it's so fun, so good. And we just recently got an approval and it only took a month to get it. So I want to share that with you. And this is important for anybody who's a green card holder. Anybody who's a green card holder who needs to leave the US, who needs to live abroad of the US and still want to be a citizen or at least not be scared by customs. The N470 is a great application to file. So we're going to talk about that. But first, we're going to dive into OPT being canceled. It is on the chopping block. USCIS Director Joseph Edlow and Congressman Riley Moore, they're pushing it to be canceled. They've been talking about it, and it's coming up, and it's on my newsfeed, and people are getting scared, and it affects people who are planning, right? So again, the people who, let's talk about what this is. When you are an international student and you graduate, you can be on occupational practical training for 1 year. And if you're a STEM major, you can extend it by 2 more years for a total of 3 years. And so this is for training purposes. You essentially have a job. It's great for international students. But the reason why USCIS, Joseph Edlow, and Congressman Riley Moore wants to cancel it is because they're saying this is bypassing the congressional intent of immigration policies. Other people have to apply for H-1B. They have to be vetted. They have to go through the lottery in order to be able to work. These students can just directly get it. They're taking away U.S. jobs. And when I see this, it makes me almost furious because it takes it out of context. Let's just take this argument at its face value, right? That it is bypassing congressional intent. It is some sort of like evil method that whether it's the Democrats or the Republicans or the immigrants themselves that came up with. And the historical context of it is that it was negotiated, it was discussed, it solves a major problem in the US economy. Let's just take a step back all the way back to the 2000s when OPT got their extensions. Back then, the push was for the tech industry. The United States needs so much more help. And they were pleading to expand the H-1B so there could be more visa numbers. Because remember, back then, there were a lot more H-1B visa numbers. And then it sunset and the number reduced. But there's still all these jobs that needs to be filled. But Congress couldn't get themselves together to pass a new H-1B bill to have more visas, right? And so, why don't we just extend the OPT period? It's relatively easy. You extend the number of years that they can have it so they can, while they're on their OPT, they have more chances to go through the lottery to start on the H-1B path, right? It is such a crappy compromise already back then from the 2000s all the way to the present. And that is because the US needed it. And now for the second argument saying, oh, all these people who are like somehow evil and trying to take away from US jobs and these big tech companies using OPT to suppress US workers and all this stuff. Well, let's look at the past, 20 years from 2007 all the way to the present, right? Past 20 years. What's the US unemployment rate, right? Financial crisis, housing crisis, stock market bust. Us millennials living through this entire period, was it significantly bad in the US economy? The unemployment rate has still been historically at the 3-4% mark, even with all these OPT. So that just proves that the US needed all of these OPT students, all the H-1Bs, and the insatiable demand for good tech workers. And not just tech workers, just workers in general. And so if you look at the data, you look at the historical context and how we got here today, it's not easy getting something like this passed through USCIS, through Congress, expanding these programs. And so now suddenly, because of US labor shortages, because of high inflation, because your constituents are dissatisfied with their pay, the first thing you attack are the immigrants. I feel like we see this time and time again, right? Immigrants, international students, people with visas, they're just a scapegoat for any problem you have. Housing, too expensive, it's the immigrants' problem. It's the unlawful documented people. You can't get a job, you're not getting a promotion. Oh, it's the immigrants' problem, right? They're always the scapegoat for everything. And so never mind that with all of the demand the past 20 years and all the OPT students that graduated to the H-1B program, that graduated to the EB-2, EB-3 program, that finally get their green card after 10, 15 years of being in the US. And for a lot of Indians who have a huge backlog, they were on OPT for a couple years, they're on H-1B for like decades, and they still can't get a green card because of the priority date. So they're like indentured servitude. Like that is the unspoken fact of the United States immigration system. And now you want to even cut that just because of what? Maybe because AI boom is happening and people are getting laid off. And so you want to give the jobs to Americans and now you're scrapping the OPT program, right? Like, I feel like it's just dishonest talking about it in this way. Now, I'm okay if you talk about it a different way, right? I'm okay if USCIS officers, Joseph Edlow or the congressman, position it as the OPT program was a good intent. We want to refine it. We want to make it better. When you apply for the work authorization, we want to tie it to a particular employer. We want to be vetted. We want to be e-verified. We want to do this and that. You want to make it more streamlined and vetted. That's fine, right? You're making a program better, more efficient, more clear. Okay, you want to prevent OPT fraud, right? There was a whole bunch of FBI busts of fake schools. You don't want students to be naive and scammed. That's great. I'm all for that. But when you say all these international students are just stealing American jobs and these big tech companies are just suppressing wages and all this stuff, I feel like that ignores the historical context, the need, the demand, and the benefit that the US got from it, and you're escaping it on these international students. These international students pay like triple the amount in tuition fees for college, for grad school. And then when they finally get to intern for a year, for 2 years, you're stripping even that privilege away. Fix the H-1B problem, right? Fix the H-1B problem, and then you may not need the OPT problem, right? But that is causing a lot of frustration with people who are thinking about, well, should I come to the United States to study, or should I go to Canada, or should I go to the UK, right? Or international students who just are about to graduate, it's April, should they go and study somewhere else? So the privilege of international students is after you graduate, you get a US degree, being able to work for a year, being able to work for 2 extra years. And a lot of the arguments when I was reading it from the way they were presenting is like, it's not fair, right? It's the tech industry that is getting this unique privilege and they're benefiting it and the rest of America is not benefiting. Well, you have two options, don't you? You have one option, which is to cancel OPT altogether so nobody get that privilege. Or you can make it so that everybody else also gets 3 years as opposed to the 1 year, right? So think about the mom and pop laundromat, right? Their OPT intern can only be there for 1 year, but the tech worker on Silicon Valley could get it for 3 years. Is that fair? Is that not fair? You don't want the tech industry, you don't want California, and you don't want, the finance bros who's doing tech and STEM majors and the economists. You don't want New York and California to be able to get 3 years when everybody else gets 1 year. Well, then just up it so that everybody gets 3 years, right? But no, your solution is to cancel OPT altogether, right? Make everybody lose out on that privilege. That's a thing that I see again and again. Even if you do have a fair argument, which I don't think they do, their solution is also one-sided. So that is the news for today, right? I do agree that a lot of people who are planning out their immigration status, um, maybe 3 years OPT is a little bit too easy given that they could just match it with the family immigration. I'll give you an example, right? When I'm talking to a lot of students about immigration, I go through H1B, I go through E2, I go through E1, I go through all the visa categories, but then I always end with, but you know what? 95% of you, I know this is what end up happening. You graduate from undergrad, you OPT for 1 year, you may or may not get selected for H1B, then you continue for a grad program, maybe for 2 years, maybe for 3 years, and then maybe you do another OPT if you qualify, right? And then if you have a STEM OPT, you just do that for 3 years. And then within that period, you are already 28, 29 years old. A lot of you will just get married and get a green card. And so all the talk about H1B, E2, E1s, EB2, EB3s, most people don't end up doing. So if OPT gets canceled and if it gets reduced down to 1 year or even half a year, it would force everybody onto the H1B track. And maybe there will be a H1B reform this year. I'm predicting that it might happen. And so H1B might have a lot more visa numbers and a lot more people will get selected. So there's no more lottery and it might be really expensive, but at least it forces everybody onto that track. And if that is the case, then if you graduate from a US university, instead of just doing the master's program plus the OPT, and then getting married, maybe it will force everybody to go on the H1B and the EB2 and EB3 track. And that's what I'm predicting will happen. I'm not against that from a US congressman policy standpoint. I know a lot of business immigration firms will benefit from it. We do a lot of H1Bs, we do a lot of EB2, EB3s. Of course, we will benefit from it as well. I'm against it from the political standpoint of using talking points and scapegoating. When they blame the international students, when they blame the US employers because this compromise was done not by the employers. The employers have been pushing for more H1B. It's Congress who couldn't come together to expand the H1B program. And the easy compromise, the easy solution was just to expand the OPT so that more international STEM majors, elite students could be able to go into the workforce to fulfill the need that Americans cannot meet. Now, why are we bringing it up now? Conveniently? Is it because inflation is high? Is it because of AI? Is it because you could score political points? That's the part that kind of irks me about politics, right? When you're saying something just for political point purposes, you know, I'm all for, again, combating OPT fraud by fake schools. I'm all for making it a little bit clearer so when you're applying for employment authorization, it's tied to a particular employer. I'm all for expanding the entire H1B program if that is what the US needs. So that's the news for today. It sucks for international students who is debating whether or not to come here or to stay here. So the best advice for anybody who is an international student who didn't get selected on the H1B, who's banking on OPT, it's time to rethink that plan, right? And maybe it forced people to get married sooner, which is also unfortunate that they have to make that kind of calculation. But that's the news for today.
Yeah, so can we put some questions in the chat? One person says they got some advice from us a while back and they got their green card. Thank you for the advice.
Awesome. Happy for you.
Out of topic, I love the colorful tie.
Okay.
This is not me, although I do like it. It's
Yeah. I just found it, by the way, right? Like it was tucked away in another suitcase, and I was like, oh, yeah, I haven't worn this tie in like 2 years.
Where is your office located?
If you know where Disneyland is in Anaheim, we're just a couple city over. We're really close. We're in the city of Artesia, so Cerritos, Artesia area, but it's pretty close to Anaheim. So if you know where that is, you'll find us.
What can someone do if they lost the CRBA Certificate of Citizenship? Does USCIS process them or does the state?
USCIS process it. So you have to file a new request to get a new naturalization certificate. I believe it's the Form 565, but I don't remember off the top of my head. But yeah, you can just request a new naturalization certificate. It takes about 6 to 9 months for USCIS to send it over.
Yeah. So isn't CRBA different than N400 Certificate of Naturalization? What I had was CRBA. I'm confused.
Oh, I thought you got a naturalization certificate, so you're just replacing it. Um, I have no idea what you have. What is CRBA?
CRBA.
Yeah, is that as? Yeah, I don't know what kind of citizenship that is.
A
Um,
consular report of birth abroad.
oh, okay. I don't know. Let me think. Let me think. Yeah, I don't know. I haven't actually encountered that before. We should know because we do a lot of consular births. Um, but after they do it, they just get a U.S. passport, and then so they've always just used their passport. So I guess I don't know why you need to go back to it. But a lot of people who naturalize, they get their passport and they still go back to get their N400 as well, usually because they want that N400 number so they can apply for Social Security. But I guess I never encountered the consular birth abroad certificate problem. So yeah, I don't know how to get that again. I'm presuming you have to go back to the consulate to get it.
So the BIA denied my MTO as an LPR. What should I do?
The BIA denied your motion to reopen as a green card holder. What should you do? Well, you could just take it one step higher, right? Go to federal litigation, challenge the BIA ruling. If you feel like you have a really good case, that's all you can do, right? Unless you obviously take the second option, which is to leave and then somehow try to come back again through waivers and other means. But if you want to stay in the US and continue the good fight, the next step is federal litigation, all the way up to the Supreme Court.
Can you divorce when you file VAWA?
Yes, the VAWA is a very interesting area of law. You don't even have to be married anymore because VAWA covers domestic abuse. So if you are abused, if you're a victim, um, you're no longer in that relationship, your spouse passed away, or you are filing VAWA as a child, you weren't even abused, your parent got abused, all qualifies. So yeah, there's a lot of things to think through. Um, Usually the question I get is, should I apply for VAWA or should I apply for 751? Should I apply for 751 or should I apply for 751 waiver? Should I apply for 751 waiver and argue it was a bona fide relationship, or should I argue that I would be in distress? Those are the usual questions that I get. And the clear answer that I usually give is arguing for bona fide relationship is usually much easier than everything else. And even in this context, VAWA applications are getting a lot of scrutiny by USCIS. So if you have a choice, all being equal, all you can file. If you choose VAWA, you know they're going to scrutinize it more. If you choose a 751 waiver, and you're arguing for bona fide relationship versus abuse, if you're arguing for the abuse and the suffering, then you're going to get scrutinized more. And so bona fide usually is the best choice, but that's again a blanket statement for most cases. I'm just saying, usually after every single consultation I do, analyzing everything, that's usually the conclusion. So just want to share that out loud.
Any update on the 75 visa pause?
Nope, I just had a couple consultations with people this morning, and again, I reiterated my prediction. I think it's gonna last all the entire term until Trump leaves office, and even then, it might continue to be expanded. I did bring it up with the congressman when I was in Washington D.C., and when we're talking about it, some of them didn't even really know about it. I mean, it's an executive order; it's not on their radar. It's not something I guess Congress deals with because again, it's the federal government. Um, or they heard about it, they didn't know like the ins and outs of it, and again, it's not up to their prerogative to change it. But again, it is my prediction, knowing what Trump has done on the first term, knowing what intends to do with the public charge, I think it is only going to expand even into the United States.
Interesting. So it wasn't even on their radar.
Yeah, because it's an executive order, right? It's the consulate work. They already have enough things to work on as it is, fixing the laws in the United States. That if it's something that's completely outside of they're like, oh yeah, I saw that on news, but like, what is it again?
What about, have you seen people from the 75 countries adjust status in the US? Have you seen that actually work?
I think so. I'm pretty sure Margaret and Gabby has some cases that we have been doing that. So I would ask them. Um, so, maybe Galen can jot this down, and then next week when I come back, I could report it. But yes, I'm pretty sure we have.
Now, on this motion to reopen was denied. I don't know where to go really. I got my LPR through U visa. So they're applying U visa.
Uh-huh. So you already got the green card, and then what is the appeal about, and why did it get denied, and what are the issues, right? So those are the things that we want to talk about. But now I just want to be clear: we don't do U visas at our firm. So I mean, I guess even if you did tell me all the contents of the appeal, we wouldn't really know. But yeah, we don't really do U visas. But I could just tell you that after the BIA, if you disagree with that decision, then it is federal court litigation, right? You go to the official justice system in the United States and say, hey, USCIS, Department of Homeland Security, you guys adjudicated this case incorrectly. Let a quote unquote real judge kind of deal with it. But that's the idea.
So do you think the current lawsuits on the 75 country ban, do you think those will succeed?
I do not think they will succeed. I think the Trump administration is very polished in the way they've thought everything through and is within their presidential authority. So I don't think this challenge would amount to anything other than giving him more power and headlines.
Why wouldn't someone who got their F1 reinstatement then get OPT?
Why wouldn't somebody who already got reinstated somehow not get OPT? Couple things there. Number one, the school often doesn't allow it. And you say, what? That's insane. I completely agree. But many schools, in their playbook, in their policy, they have the requirement that once you get reinstated, you have to be in school for so long because to them it's a brand new status somehow. And so you have to fulfill that before you can get OPT. That's one thing. So it's dependent on the school. The second thing is a lot of times people who get reinstated, because the reinstatement doesn't actually clear your status, and this entire reinstatement ordeal has just been so frightening that they just give up on the US. Like, okay, I got my degree now. I finally graduated. I'm not going to stay in the US anymore. I'm deciding to leave. And you leave and you cure that time before you reapply for a new status to come back in, right? Because again, normal students who don't have reinstatement, they get reinstated. I mean, sorry, normal students, they're in lawful status, they do OPT, they get a H-1B or they get married and they adjust and you get a green card. But people who reinstate, people who are F1 students, they can't do that. They could get a H-1B. If they can get an OPT, they do a OPT. They could get F1, but if they want to adjust status to get a green card, the adjustment status application oftentimes will still bar them because they have the status issue while they were getting reinstated. That doesn't cure their status. Now, if you get married to a U.S. citizen, that's fine. But if you are, F2A, F2B, if you're doing a EB2, EB3, if your unlawful status was over 180 days, 245K doesn't cover it. So a lot of people are just so disheartened and scared by this whole ordeal that they choose, forget OPT, I'm just going to go back to my home country. So those are two main reasons why people don't get OPT after F1 reinstatement.
Now, on this motion to reopen, or MTO,
Mhm.
so they're applying for naturalization, And the letter said past removal proceedings when applied for naturalization.
Mm,
So that was the reason given.
I see. Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, we haven't done a case like that before. That does suck. You've been a green card holder, you've been so long, and you're applying for citizen, and you fulfill every other requirement, but they bar you for that.
Is it safe to travel internationally for a green card holder who has been detained for illegal crossing decades ago, but disclosed it at the time of getting the green card interview?
Customs right now are on a heightened alert. And so we see so many green card holders who even became a citizen at that. I just had a consultation yesterday with this very sweet Indian lady who's in her like 60s, who has been a citizen for an extremely long time. And she's terrified to leave because every time she leaves recently, she's always questioned for like 10 plus minutes. So citizens are being questioned, green card holders are being questioned, even for something that happened a long, long time ago. But how thick is your skin? And in analyzing everything, I was telling her, if travel is really important to you, and in this case, it is really important because she has to go see her family overseas, you know, the risk of her citizenship being canceled or the green card for green card holders being revoked or being sent to ICE detention is so small given their specific context, right? I analyze their situation. I'm like, this specific instance, the problem is so low that maybe what's better is when you see the customs officer and they are taking it and questioning you, you know, have pity on them. Imagine if they're your cousin or your brother or sister and they're just doing this job, this impossible job of having to scrutinize everybody and being hated upon everyone. Right? Look at it with a different perspective. Because again, you getting into any serious trouble, the risk is so low versus their job just sucking is a reality, right? Maybe a different perspective will help you go through that experience. Now, for your specific situation, years ago, if you had a problem, how would it affect you now? Well, that breaks it into a couple things, right? So if it's a drug offense, obviously it's super serious, heightened alert. We saw a green card holder come in, boom, detained. That really sucks. Other people who've left the country for a long time come back, detained. That really sucks. But if it's something like this situation where they're just questioning you for 5, 10 minutes, maybe in secondary for an extra hour, if it's just an annoyance, then just kind of balance that with how important the travel is, right? Again, we analyze every single case individually. We give kind of feedback. If it's really complicated, like there's no way I would know, we even offer the service of us going to check with a customs officer. Like, we'll take this case, we'll take your situation, we'll go to a customs officer. Hey, this person wants to leave and come back in. This is really important, but they don't want their case to be confiscated. What is your opinion? I mean, it can't guarantee that their opinion is the same as everybody else's opinion, but at least we could get a feel of it, right? And so there's that. And there's also the DHS trip, right? Where if you've already been questioned 1 time, 2 times, 3 times, and you've always been, released and it wasn't a big issue, it's just an annoyance on you and on them and the taxpayer, then what you could do is do a DHS trip, report it, and so the next time you come in, well, you might be cleared already, right? And so I know it works. I talk to CBP officers all the time. They also read it. They know it works. And the only thing to know is that you have to do it every single year, right?
And Rota, just question for 10 minutes on the secondary. For him, it lasted 2+ hours just because his name is popular.
I see. So yeah. And it also might be just that port of entry at that one moment, right? So sometimes it's a long time, but the actual, yeah, quote unquote questioning is only like 5, 10 minutes. But it is just annoying. So I mean, you can also game it, right? So if you know you're going to travel and you know you're going to be questioned and you know you're going to be released, you could pick a time and place that is much more convenient, right? Where there's a lot less people. And so even if you are pulled in secondary, it's a quick release, right?
So, yeah, when they were issued legal permanent residents, they had disclosed on the application, they disclosed their previous removal proceedings and the date and the year and such.
Okay.
So does that have any relevance on now their citizenship got denied and their MTO got denied by the BIA?
Yeah, so that's the thing. I don't know U visa and why the citizenship got denied. But like I said, I think if you look into the law and if you disagree with the arguments, and if the N-400 is denied, usually they write it out very clearly because citizenship is so highly scrutinized by Congress, right? Because if you get approved, then you become citizen, you can vote. And if you get denied, I mean, if this is the critical moment, and if USCIS can bar a lot of people from becoming citizens or denaturalize a lot of people, then that effectively controls the voting power, and that is very sensitive, right? And so usually in the denial notice, it will write everything out very clearly. So double check the law. A lot of times I've seen USCIS misquote the law. So double check it. And if you disagree, and if your attorney disagrees with it, right? Because I can't imagine you filed the BIA, appeal on your own. If you did, high props to you. But analyze it, and if there is a gray area that you disagree with, federal court litigation is the way to go.
I've been waiting for my 751 waiver for 44 months. How long do you think it'll take?
Another year, maybe. Yeah, I mean it's about average, 48 months. 3-4 years, pretty common.
Okay, so USCIS hasn't denied the naturalization, only MTR.
Oh, then I don't know. Yeah. Well, then if USCIS hasn't denied it, then just kind of wait for it, right? Yeah. But again, we don't do the U visa, so yeah.
I'm approved for EB2NIW with the interview already completed in Rio. I'm in PA due to the pause. I requested NIE 30 days ago with still no decision. Is there anything else I can do or just wait?
Just wait. Keep on following up. The NIE is the national interest exception, so props to you for applying for it. It's really good. USCIS and the consulate usually take some time to review, so give them about 90 days. I think that's fair. And so see what you're gonna do, right?
But yeah, if they have EB2NIW approved, then NIE seems more likely. Is that accurate?
Yeah, I would say so. I would say so. It's a much stronger argument. Yeah.
Now, 31 months ago,
Yeah.
I left the US. They are an LPR.
Okay.
They had travel documents at the
Okay.
time. But they were a political prisoner
Oh, jeez.
and they had to stay
Mm,
too long for 31 months.
right.
Can I come back in without applying for SB1?
Yes.
Have all the documents, no control. They have equity in the US as well.
Right. Yep. We've done tons of cases like this before. It's definitely possible. SB1 is a possibility, but I wouldn't bank on it. I think it's really difficult. I think if your documents are valid, if you have travel, if you have a reentry permit, that would be even better. Especially if the reentry permit is still valid, then you're in really good shape. But if your reentry permit is expired or it's lost and you only have your green card, it is still a possibility of coming back in. Prepare everything well, explain it to the customs officer. There's basically two buckets of items that you really want to explain. One is why you've been out for 31 months or longer. It's beyond your control. Something happened terrible, and why the U.S. is your home. You've never abandoned it before and now and in the future, right? Given your background, given how you got your green card, given everything that you have in the U.S., prepare all of that. Look the officer in the eye and say, like, I'm finally home, and I'll give him a hug almost, right? And then the officer says, all right, cool, welcome back. Don't do this again. Like, hell no, I'm not going to do that again, right?
I don't know what this means. CPR equals LPR.
Conditional resident, conditional CPR equals LPR, lawful permanent resident.
Is that true? Any thoughts?
Oh, that's what's
That was the question.
CPR equals LPR question mark?
Yeah.
Okay. So if you are a conditional green card holder where you only have the 2-year conditional green card, and there's two types of people who have it. When if you are an EB5 investor, you're the type of people who invested like $1 million for your whole family to get the green card, or you got your green card through marriage and it was a new marriage, less than 2 years, so you got a conditional green card 2 years, you are a green card holder for almost all intents and purposes, right? You can get a social security number, you can file taxes, you have the obligation to file taxes worldwide. So you have almost all the rights and responsibilities and duties of a green card holder. However, there are some things that still differentiate you from a full 10-year green card holder. And part of the annoying thing is the cancellation or removal. But if that doesn't apply to you, you don't really care about it, you don't think about it, then it doesn't apply to you. I really want to take on a case and I want to overthrow that law. But other than that minor fact and a few maybe other tangential things that I didn't think about, almost all rights and privileges are the same.
Okay, this is about U visa. What percentage do you think you have to do for an interview to get a green card from a visa U?
I don't know. I think I did one U visa a long time ago, and I was a co-counsel on with somebody. So I mean, I wish I did thousands of U visas, but I know there are a lot of attorneys who do thousands of U visas. And if you go on our Making Immigration Better channel, I interviewed an attorney who's also an immigration law specialist, and she does thousands of U visas in all sorts of complication cases. So I would recommend doing a consultation with her. And if I remember correctly, she also does a TikTok live right now on Thursdays during the same time. So she might be on right now. So just keep on strolling or search U visa. Maybe she'll pop up.
It took me 8 years from U visa approval to LPR. Wow, 8 years.
Yeah, U visa is insane.
Okay, what about re-entering as an LPR after 8 years at the JFK airport?
Yeah.
COVID time, then green card expired, didn't get
Right.
re-entry because offices were closed.
Yeah, I think it's a really hard. I don't want to say it's impossible because as a philosophy major, I mean, impossible means impossible, right? But I would just say it's extremely hard. Um, but I said things are extremely hard when I did my first green card holder out of the U.S. for 2 years, then 4 years, then 6 years, then 9 years, then 13 years, right? So, like, what is impossible?
Right, it all depends on the facts of the case, right?
Right. Depends on the officer, depends on the facts, depends on the circumstance. Yeah.
That's why I think sometimes when we'll do videos like this, people will say, like we had a comment of 5 years is impossible. I don't know what you were expecting when it got denied.
Yeah. Well, I would agree with you if 5 years is impossible, but then I did a 9-year one, so then I know that's not impossible anymore. And then I think 9 years is impossible, and then you're a 13-year one, right? And so you don't know the possibility until you keep on pushing your limits. And again, I don't wish for this stuff to happen, but clients come to us and say, this is my case. Is it impossible? And I say, it's really hard. It might be impossible. And then the clients say, well, then let's just try anyways. Right? What's the worst that can happen? I get forced to abandon. Yes, so let's just try it. And then it works. So that becomes a new standard, right? And so you just keep on trying, I mean, as long as the clients are willing to try, our obligation is to zealously advocate for the client. Or else we are playing God, right? If I say it's impossible, well then is it truly impossible? And if I said no and the clients believed me and then they gave up on something that could be possible, then didn't I just change the fate of their entire family for the rest of eternity? That kind of sucks, right? So if there's a good argument to be made, why not try?
Traveling with LPR, you think at this moment it's not a good idea?
Literally every airport is filled with green card holders coming in and out of the U.S. every single day, right? Is it over 100,000? I mean, check how many flights there are, right? So 40,000 people entering, exiting, green card holders. If of all green card holders who enter the country right now are getting screwed, the U.S. would grind to a halt, right? So it is absolutely not true that it is, completely dangerous to travel if you're a green card holder. But with that being said, if you have a checkered past, if you're going to leave for a long time, it is definitely harder now compared to before this administration, right? There is an executive order now that's saying CBP has to be on a heightened standard. It is true now that U.S. is in arguably a ceasefire war with Iran, so everybody's on high alert. So it is more dangerous now. but is it completely unsafe and you shouldn't do it? It depends on what your reason is, right?
A friend of mine got married back home for 2 years processing time. Finally, she got her LPR, and then she got detained by ICE.
She got married, she became a green card holder, and then she got detained by ICE after getting the green card. That seems crazy. What's ICE's excuse this time? Yeah, like it obviously could happen, but it's usually a pretty high bar because that's not what they're trying to go after. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, some questions about the 75-year-old or 72-year-old grandma
Sure.
story.
Yeah.
First of all, any updates? Have we heard from her since?
Yes. So we made a whole video on it. I don't know if we released it yet. We will.
We have.
Oh, we have. Okay. So there is the final update on it. So you could go back to our YouTube channel, kind of watch it.
Wait, from 2 weeks ago, or is there a more recent one?
It's the one where I read the text.
Oh, yeah.
Right. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So that video has been released. She, everything that happened since she got detained. She was detained for 5 weeks, and basically she just abandoned the green card and decided not to ever come back to the U.S. again. And it's just a horrible experience. All the money she had to pay, all the time off work her children had to take, the scare, the trauma. I mean, just traveling to the US as a 70-year-old is already brutal coming from Asia. It's a 14-hour flight. It's hard enough as it is, and now being detained for 5 weeks without your medication. Think about that, right? And so at this point, she just abandoned the green card. The worst part of the story, though, is that she was willing to abandon the green card and she wasn't allowed to. So forcefully detained. That's the part that really gets my blood boiling. And that's where I mentioned it to the congressman last week, and they just could not fathom that this could happen. And the reason why this happened is nobody's fault. CBP was just doing their job. They gave it to ICE. ICE was just doing their job, handed it over to the courts, and the court was just doing their job, doing each case at a time on the docket. But in this passing of the buck scenario, this elderly lady who's been a green card holder for decades, who has U.S. citizen family, was stuck in detention for 5 weeks. That's worse than many jail sentences for misdemeanors. And luckily for the US government, she did not pass away in jail, or else, wow, the media attention that this will get. But not to say other people didn't pass away. There are US citizens, US citizens got detained, but there are many other people who've been detained and passed away. That's the reality we're living in. That's just absolutely terrible.
Yeah, it is very, very scary times. Yeah, the most evil and cruel thing, instead of sending people back after denied entry back to their native country within 24 hours, they hold them just for weeks. So the commenter says.
Yeah, I mean, the airport, you hold them for a day to wait for USCIS for ICE to determine if they want to be picked up, right? I've been in their rooms. They have beds. It's not the worst. It's at least the airport, but it's not comfortable. They usually get detained for 1 day, 2 days, 3 days before ICE comes and picks up. But then after ICE picks them up, the detention centers is just horrible. Not as bad as a jail, but that's in the US, right? But now people are being moved around all across the country. It's a horrible system that we have, and it's one thing if you're detaining, again, people who are a public threat and they have violated all sorts of laws. But when you're detaining, again, 72-year-old green card holders who've been a green card for like 20 years with no criminal record and with U.S. citizen, not allowing even to get bail, right? I mean, the whole idea of bail is to say, I'm not a public threat. Don't waste government resources. I'm not going to flee the country. I'll pay, and there's insurance. You completely skip that entire system and just put people in. That's just kind of mindless, dumb policies.
Yeah, and some commenters just don't believe the story.
Okay.
So this is fake, you know.
Yeah. I wish it was. I wish it was, but when it first happened, we made a video on it. And then we made a video on it again when there's an update. And then I made another video on it. And then I went to Congress to talk to representatives and senators about this. I'm spending my own money to do this. I really wish it was fake. And I'm not, you know, what's the angle to get more views? Maybe if I was just a normal talking head, but I am the senior partner of this law firm, and our overhead is over $200,000 per month, 300,000 some months. What are some views worth, right? I'm trying to share what's happening and trying to make the world a better place. I'm not just another TikTok talking head commenting on policy. I'm talking about real cases. That's why I do these live sessions where I'm not just talking about news, but I'm actually filming success stories directly, talking about this is what happened, this is what we're doing, because I think that is the most important and valuable thing in this day and age, right? Anybody can go on ChatGPT and ask about something, right? Anybody can just comment and share their opinions left and right. But only the people who are actually in the field doing the cases, getting results, whether it's success or failure, whether it's approval or denial, only that is actually worth anything, right? And so anybody could talk about N470 and the policy behind it, but who's done it, right? And when you do it, what's the result? And what did you submit? And how did you submit it? And what arguments did you make, right? So, anyways, but again, I don't live for the haters, right? Yeah, if you're doing something, you're gonna get hate, and then that's totally fine. I'm just trying to be true to what we're doing, and hopefully it helps some people.
That's good attitude. When I submitted my 45, I had my fingerprints taken. How long is that validity period? I saw online it's 15 months. Does that mean if 15 months have passed, USCIS can't reuse the biometrics?
Biometrics policy is constantly changing. Prior to this past December, a lot of times biometrics can be reused for years and years and years, right? So prior to this December, we've seen some biometrics reused for like 5-6 years for reentry permit, for I-90, for 829. But the new policy, they don't want to reuse it as much. So who knows what's going to happen in the future? Maybe every 15 months they're going to make you do a biometrics again, which is possible, but it is gonna be a strain.
So my husband passed all his previous interviews for N400. He was asked 9 to 10 questions. Now on the 10th question, he asked, "What does that word mean?" Could the interview explain that word? Because it was an uncommon word. He didn't understand it.
Uh-huh.
Interview refused to explain, and their husband said no.
And
The interview said, "What does that word mean?" The husband says he doesn't
okay,
know.
okay,
And then the interview said, "Come back next time."
okay,
So it failed. Will he
okay.
have to take the N400 again next time, or will he have to retake all the previous interviews?
So your husband should have gotten a sheet of paper, and on it would probably say all the things that got passed. So maybe the interview box was checked, so he's done with the interview, basically the N400. Maybe the box on the civics test was checked. Maybe he passed, the key questions on U.S. civics test. Maybe the writing and reading was passed, but maybe just the oral language, maybe that failed. And so whatever is passed, he does not have to get re-examined. So the next interview should be much clearer and straightforward to that one thing. Now, it's completely up to your discretion of the officer to deny somebody based on their English fluency. I could tell you most officers that I know hate denying people just on the English fluency because it is a waste of their time as well. Because again, they're not being paid for it. It doubles the amount of work that they have to do. The person leaves, they get to reschedule and come back. It's an annoyance. But yeah, so they really don't like doing it, but hopefully your husband could pass next time. Um, if the officer asks a particular word like, have you ever been a part of a totalitarian party? Your husband asks, what does totalitarian mean? The officer says, well, you're supposed to know that, right? What your husband can say instead of I don't know is, can you ask in a different way? Or I used to know, but I forgot it. Can I look it up? Right? If you're just being tested for your English fluency, you're not required to memorize the entire dictionary. You just have to be able to converse like a first grader, right? To be able to say, well, I don't know, can I look it up on my phone, right? Can I chat GPT it, right? That tests your fluency, right?
How long is the typical N400 processing time?
We've seen some as short as 3 months, as long as 2, 3 years. So, but I would say average, let's just say 6 to 9 months to be safe.
I applied for I-130 last October. When should I actually expect them to check out my application?
Some take as long as 2+ years, right? I think USCIS has a visa tracker to see how long things are taking. Yeah, but if you're doing a like adjustment status plus I-130, it could be as fast as like 9 months. But again, a lot of normal I-130s are taking like 2 years. So if you are a green card holder and you want to leave the United States for 6 months, a year, or even longer, but you still may want to become a citizen later on, what should you do? That's where the N470 comes in. We filed it this year, February, and we got approved in March. So it was one month. It's the fastest we've ever seen. Usually in the past when we filed it, 4 months, 5 months, 6 months. One time it took like 8 months. It's like only need to leave for 6 months and it took you 8 months to kind of adjudicate it. That's ridiculous, right? But it got approved and it's great news. Now let's talk about what the use of it is, right? So unlike the reentry permit, the reentry permit you apply so you can show the customs officer, hey, I needed to leave the US for more than 6 months, more than a year, maybe even 2 years, and I couldn't come back, but I want to come back. I don't want to abandon my green card, so I apply for the reentry permit. The reentry permit is used to show the customs officer that the US is your home, that you want to return. The N470 is used, you could use it for the customs officer as well. I mean, that's partially why we did it for this client. But it's also used for when you apply for citizenship, when you apply the N400 to become a citizen. Because when you apply for N400 to be a citizen, you have the physical presence and the continuous presence requirement. But if you need to be out of the country, you can't be here, but you still want to be a citizen. So that's where the N470 comes in. Our client has been a green card holder since 2006. She's been a green card holder for like 20+ years. And you know what? She can't be a citizen. You know why? Because she's stationed outside of the US. She's not working for the military. Because if you're working for the military, then you could just directly do the citizenship with the military and get passed. You don't have to deal with the physical presence test, right? But she's arguably working for the US government through affiliate contractors. Does she qualify? Is she doing research? Is she not doing research? Is she working for government? Is she not working for government? That's ambiguous. But the thing is, she already left. And nobody told her about the N470, right? She only came to us because every time she comes in, she's stopped by customs officer as a green card holder working for the government. And she's just like sort of pissed off. And I was guiding her, well, let's do reentry permit. This is how you need to answer the officer. This is the misunderstanding. And after talking about all of that, I'm like, well, I mean, why don't you just be a citizen? And she's like, well, I can't because of the physical presence. I'm like, oh, have you thought about the N470? She's like, what's the N470? So I explained everything. Well, N470 allows you to preserve your physical presence and your continuous presence, even if you're not in the US. She's like, can that be true? How can nobody have told me about it? So we went through it, talked about it, prepared it, filed it, 1 month, boom, approval. Now, it's really important for you to know about what these two different tests are, because for N470, oftentimes they only approve one of them and not both of them, right? If you work for the government, you can get both approved. If you work for a research facility or international organization, you oftentimes only get the continuous presence waived. But that's still a big deal, because let's say you got the green card, right? You got the green card, you live in the US for 1, 2, 3 years. You just have to wait for a little longer and then you can apply for citizenship. But suddenly your job sends you overseas for half a year, or 2 years. That sucks, right? Because after a couple more years, you can become a citizen. But now, do you go with the job or do you not go with the job? Well, if you apply for the N470, you get that approved. It preserves your continuous presence. You leave, you come back, you can still apply for citizenship because you still meet the physical presence test because in the past 5 years, you were in the US for more than half the time, more than 30 months. And your continuous presence wasn't met because you left for, 2 years or a year. But because you applied for the N470, now you're safe, now you're good, you can still become a citizen. If you work for the government, even better. You got your green card, you got it for a year, you apply for N470, you get stationed out for 10 years, 20 years, you come back, you can immediately apply for citizenship, right? Because that's the benefit. So how to do this case, the form isn't too complicated. You fill everything out. You get a lot of letter of recs from different people attesting your job, your duties, your page stubs, show the relationship between different organizations. In this case, the most difficult part was that it's the U.S. government, affiliates, right? So you have to trace it all back to okay, she is working for the government. And then prove that she's been doing and the work that she's been doing, obviously it has to be confidential, but you still showing it to the government itself. And voila, right? 1 month, no request for evidence, just a simple approval. And now she has this as a shield. So when she comes back in, if CBP detains her again, she has something to show. Look, I even filed for an N470, I got that approved, right? So it's just an additional shield, but also when she applies for citizenship, it'll be much easier. Very happy that this case was approved. Again, we only do a few of these every once in a while. Grace and Margaret worked on it really hard, and I'm happy to share this story with all of you. Thank you. Take care. Bye-bye.